Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Curtis. Thank you very much. Hey everybody, there's so much to cover. We're gonna go fast. I've got 70-something slides, so bear with me here. There's going to be some follow-up research for you to do. First, let's talk about me, and then I'm not gonna talk about me very much. I'm Matthew Curtis, I'm the subscription attorney. I have a tech-powered law firm, and I serve clients affordably and efficiently. So where a lot of lawyers are finding they're going into a niche practice area and going up market, I've actually gone down market and have generalized. I'm like fractional general counsel for small businesses, freelancers, and everyday people. And I'm leveraging the subscription model to do that. Now, because I'm not billing my time, I have to be as efficient as possible. So even though I've been practicing for 10 years, when I started my own law firm, which launched March of 2022, I knew I had to be as quick as possible, but still get the work done, quality enough for my clients, that I could be competent in the delivery of those legal services. So I started to research AI. And the AI was okay. It was machine learning based AI. And there was some LLM stuff out there. GPT-3 was available, and I was playing around with it, but it was more like a parlor trick. It wasn't actually useful to do legal work, to do marketing, to do other things. But when ChatGPT hit the scene, because I was already playing with GPT-3, I was there day one, saw how this was going to revolutionize the practice of law, and made the case more than ever before that billing time is not the most profitable way to make money. Well, today, it's not even an ethical way to make money, and I'm about to explain why. Today, you're gonna ethically learn how to incorporate AI into your practice. You're gonna learn about a wide array of AI tools in the market, legal and non-legal, and the difference between them. You're going to identify different ways to leverage these tools for your law firm, how to correctly use AI for legal services. You're not going to hear from me. Always check all your sources, your citations that ChatGPT gives you to do legal research, because you should never ever use ChatGPT to do legal research ever, for reasons that you'll understand after this presentation. Finally, we'll discuss the most profitable way to ethically bill clients using AI, and it's not the billable hour. So disclaimer here, legal ethics topics will be discussed in this session. I'm an attorney, but I'm not your attorney. No ethics advice will be given, no attorney-client relationship formed. Everything's for ethical, educational purposes only. And you should consult ethics counsel about your specific situation and how you're using AI in your billing practices if you want actual ethics advice for your law firm. But today's conversation is going to be really useful to you. And by the way, I have a lot of slides, but if you have any questions at any point in time, the lights are shining. I might not see your hand, but raise your hand. We'll get you a mic, and I'll be happy to answer your questions as we go through this presentation. The model rules that we're going to cover primarily today is Rule 1.1 on competence. We're going to focus on comment 8. And 1.5 on fees, we're going to focus on comment 5. And then towards the end of the presentation, there's going to be an honorable mention here on Rule 1.2. For 1.1, you have to provide competent representation, and you have to maintain competence. That's comment 8, right? So including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology. What's more relevant than Gen AI right now? 1.5, terms of payments. Look at the last sentence of comment 5. A lawyer should not exploit a fee arrangement based primarily on hourly charges by using wasteful procedures. There haven't been any formal opinions on it yet, but if you're not using Gen AI in the near future, my prediction is that's going to be considered using wasteful procedures by not leveraging the tech tools that you have. While there's an ethical responsibility in most jurisdictions that you're competent in the use of your technology, there's not an express rule that says you must use the technology. Except here, there's an implied rule that you must use technology. So let's talk about it. Part 1, technology competence. Here we go. Your ethical considerations. If you use AI incorrectly, which hopefully after today, that won't be the case, you could end up with sanctions, censures, disbarment, loss of trust, ruined reputation. We're at a marketing conference, you don't want that. Disengaged clients, and more, right? So there's dozens of tools in the market. Dozens, and a few more. And these are all real tools in the market. I like to check these before I actually give this presentation because there's a lot happening, right? So there's a lot of changes, but Last I checked, all of these represent actual AI tools in the market right now. How the heck are you supposed to be competent in the use of all these tools? Well, today we're going to figure out how you could get there. First, I need to talk about a really important concept, in particular as it relates to the use of AI as an attorney, and that is a concept called Retrieval Augmented Generation. So RAG, for short, is when Gen AI, so a large language model based AI, and large language models they kind of learn things a lot like humans learn things. I don't know if any of you are parents in the room, if you have kids, like the way that kids learn things, they're kind of just like large language models. They're just predicting the next most likely word that you're going to say that's going to make sense. Well, that's how large language models work. They're probabilistic, and the way that they learn is like how we learn. So if you're studying for an exam and you read all the materials, and then you have to take that exam without actually having an open book test, well, that's kind of like how Gen AI works when it's not using RAG. When it's using RAG, it's having an open book test. If it's a legal AI, it's maybe studied the materials and it has an open book test. So the likelihood, if you, a person, were in that situation, you're going to get better results on that exam if that's the situation. That's why you want your legal AI tool to leverage Retrieval Augmented Generation. It improves the accuracy and relevance of the responses. Now, these external sources could be a bevy of different things. Typically, it's specific documents. So certain AI tools, they will allow you to upload your own documents. They may be connected to databases of case laws, treatises, and have APIs into these open source networks of databases of information that they could draw from. From my experience, and I use AI every day in my practice, when these tools leverage RAG, it reduces, if not completely eliminates, hallucinations, right? And what does it mean to hallucinate? It means the AI is making something up. Not like you've ever worked with a person who's never made things up before, right? People make stuff up too. At least with AI, it's more predictable. But when you're talking to a vendor, you want to ask them if they're leveraging Retrieval Augmented Generation. And even if they're not, you could still be the source of truth. And we'll talk about that, right? So LLMs themselves are not always trained on sources of truth. So ChatGPT, it's trained on the whole internet. It may have trained on case law. That's why it's able to mimic it and hallucinate it really well. But it's not been trained on all case law. That's why you want your AI tool to be leveraging RAG. And that's why ChatGPT, you should never use it as a source of truth or use it for legal research. You also want to know if your company is SOC 2 compliant. So Vanta is in the business of helping startups become SOC 2 compliant. So I'm not going to try to explain to you what SOC 2 compliance is. I'm just going to quote from Vanta. But essentially what it is it's this agreed upon level of security that from outside auditors that you've achieved to keep things secure to prevent data breaches. You should probably, even outside of when you're using a legal AI tool, always make sure your technology providers are SOC 2 compliant. Another important concept is a GPT wrapper. So I just explained why you shouldn't use ChatGPT to do legal research. Well, Westlaw, Lexis, VLex are companies who are leveraging these models, OpenAI's model, Anthropic's model, which is Claude. They may be leveraging Google's Gemini, I'm not entirely sure. But they are essentially wrapping themselves around these models and connecting their databases of case law. So you're going to get a significantly better result when you're leveraging these LLMs inside of tools that have access to this data. Because what are they doing? They're making it more user-friendly for lawyers, right? It sits on top of these models, and they provide it a more accessible, purpose-built user experience. And for legal AI specifically, it's going to allow you to do things like upload documents, find documents more easily, that kind of a thing. To do legal research where ChatGPT is not built for this, right? So essentially what the GPT wrappers are doing is it's just better leveraging these tools. In particular in like the marketing space even, whether it's legal marketing or other marketing, like there are these incredible AI tools that help with that. And they're still leveraging ChatGPT or these other tools, these other large language models. And sometimes you could even pick it. You could even pick which model you want to use, but the user experience is just more friendly, right? So pre-built templates, these kind of things. The goal of a GPT wrapper is to simplify the experience. So it's not necessarily bad if your legal AI tool is a GPT wrapper. You just need to understand that it's not necessarily the same thing as a legal large language model if it's just using these existing AI models. So generative AI, what makes it generative? It generates something. right? So that's obvious. Maybe it wasn't. Because there's a lot of AI on the market. There's machine learning-based AI, and that's a different thing. So analysis is not always generative, depending on the outcome, depending on what your goal is with leveraging these tools. But the comprehensive ability of large language models makes these analysis tools better. There have already been tools on the market that are helping with analysis of documents or briefs, but they significantly improved when they incorporated large language models or Gen AI because the ability to comprehend language is significantly better. So that's the business that we're in. We're in the language business. So Gen AI is revolutionizing the practice when used correctly, right? It's not on its own a source of facts or data. You want to be leveraging legal specific tools for that, or you want to be the source of truth. Even right now, and really years ago, when it first launched, you could have uploaded a motion, an example motion for summary judgment in these tools, and said, here's what I want from you. Even like just ChatGPT or Tropic's Claude. And you could have said, this is an example of what I want, but I want it with these facts in this case law instead. And it would have generated you the document, right? You are the source of truth in that instance. Now with these legal AI tools, it's going to be a lot easier of an interface to do that. So it's not perfect, right? Neither are humans. And you could predict the imperfections of AI a little bit more easily than humans. And we try to hide it. We're incentivized to hide our imperfections, right? So think about it this way, in particular for the non-legal AI, but this also applies to legal AI as well. Gen AI is like a toddler who has earned a master's degree in English, has read everything on the internet, is a method actor, has a photographic memory, but they can only access this memory when prompted, and who after too much prompting, well, they're going to forget the questions that you asked earlier in the same conversation. And the longer that they could remember that conversation, that's called the context window. So certain AI has a bigger context window than other AI. Well, would you trust this toddler as a source of truth? No, of course not. A toddler's brain isn't fully developed, even if this toddler has perfect recall and could write in the style of any well-known author, or in the style of you, if you train it to write in the style of you. Like a toddler, although this isn't entirely true because I have a toddler and they don't always listen to you, but they want to make their parents or prompt engineers happy. And even when your kid is giving you a hard time, they still want you to be happy. You want them to be happy, right? So they're going to make up facts with its clever imagination-like algorithm to seem really convincing, and it is convincing. And it's incredibly imaginative, right? You don't want to use these tools as a source of truth. You want to use them for all the other things that they're good at. So what makes AI legal specific? The vendor will tell you, we're legal AI, right? Is that enough? No, but it is a good start, right? Because they're going to be thinking about things that matter to lawyers, preserving confidentiality, right? The inputs, the uploads, the prompts do not train underlying models. Usually, these legal AI companies have enterprise-level agreements with OpenAI and Anthropic where at least it's being represented, and the question then becomes, can we reasonably understand, can we reasonably trust those representations? And I think we can. They're outwardly saying, even on OpenAI's website, if you have an enterprise-level agreement with us, we're not training underlying models. It's a little bit of a black box, but the same thing is true of using the cloud, right? Do I really know as a lawyer that the cloud provider doesn't have access to everything? Well, that's what they're representing to me, and if they're reasonably representing that and I can reasonably trust them, then I think that that's okay. Another important factor for legal AI is each user or client will have a separate, sometimes they call them layers, sometimes they call them instances. There's not a totally agreed upon jargon from these legal tech companies on how they'll explain this, but that way certain client data doesn't get combined with other client data when you're leveraging these AI tools. And that's important for legal specific AI, at least right now. And then again, the SOC 2 compliance are going to have higher security levels, like being HIPAA compliant. And this is important. So the company itself can't even get in unless they're doing some version of IT support, right, where you've expressly given them authorization. We have to preserve confidentiality with our clients. So if we can do that, then we know that this AI tool is legal specific. General use AI. We know these, right? ChatGPT is one of these. The underlying large language model that's powering these tools is training on everything. So we can't put confidential client information into ChatGPT. Samsung got in a lot of trouble with this. They put a lot of trade secrets into ChatGPT when it first came out. Well, sorry, they lost their trade secrets now, arguably, right? Because now it's been trained on this data. this confidential data. They typically don't use Retrieval Augmented Generation, but most of the time, like in particular when I'm using Claude, I'm usually using Claude to summarize a huge document. So I'm giving it the document to summarize, and I'm instructing it to only summarize this document that I'm giving you. And it does a phenomenal job with that. So even though they don't do this by default, you could instruct it to do this. The company can access everything, right? So it's kind of the exact opposite of a legal specific AI. The results are far less reliable when you're not giving it RAG, and reliability and facts are important in what we trade in. There are far broader use cases, right? But you could use, if you're going to file a motion in court anyway, and it's going to be a matter of public record, you could ask ChatGPT, you could prompt it, you could give it a persona and say, you are a judge who's in the Northern District of Illinois, and you went to Harvard, and then you practiced in big law before you became a judge. And you could sort of give it this persona, and then you could ask it for a motion you're going to file anyway, that's going to be public record. What's the most persuasive argument in this motion? Just to see what it says, right? So you could still use these tools, broad use cases. They are incredibly powerful, even when they're not legal specific. So, we know these tools, right? And some of these names change. They change it, like Gemini Ultra is a thing, but there's also, I think I saw Gemini Pro, like they keep changing what they're calling it. Perplexity, I'll come back to that in a second. Copilot, if you're using Microsoft, and you may have access to use Copilot directly in Microsoft. And then there are tools that we've been using for years, like Grammarly, Adobe, and Canva, that are now AI powered as well. HeyGen is a tool that you could essentially make a deepfake. Like deepfakes have been commoditized, but you could leverage this for marketing purposes or client communications. It's kind of incredible. Now, you still don't want to use this tool. These are general tools. I wouldn't use this when it comes to confidential conversations or communications with your clients, but they could be incredibly powerful for other things like marketing. Beautiful AI, it takes PowerPoints, slide decks, and it beautifies them, right? So if you're presenting to a jury, and you're going to be leveraging PowerPoint, you could ask, if you have Copilot, you could just ask Copilot right in PowerPoint to do certain things, and it will do it in an instant. Or you can throw it through Beautiful AI and see what those results are. Perplexity is the answer engine you've been looking for. I don't use Google anymore. I use Perplexity AI. There's an app, you can download it on your phone, it's iOS and Android, you can go to perplexity.ai, you do not need to set up an account. And what I love about Perplexity is it has what lawyers love, citations. So now I don't need to click on a bunch of links and try to figure out what's the best source for the answer that I'm looking for. I could just read a synthesized answer in Perplexity because it's going to read all the internet for me. Now, I still want to check my citations, right? So I'm still going to websites, but I don't need to read the websites to determine what is useful information and what isn't. Perplexity will tell me what that is. Oh, and if I think that sentence for that instruction for whatever thing I'm asking it makes a lot of sense, and there's a citation there or two, I'm going to click on both of those citations. I'm going to just open up those web pages so I can read more detail, right? You could also instruct Perplexity like you use any other AI tool. I only want information since 2020 or only in 2024, right? Sometimes you have to restrict the time frame. Otherwise, it's going to give you an answer synthesized based on all of the internet, right? So if you forget everything I talk about in this presentation, perplexity.ai, right? Some caveats, of course, things are changing all the time. What I'm talking about today is just a snapshot, and I had to submit this deck a month or two ago, so it's even a little out of date. Companies are pivoting. Like some of these companies, these legal AI companies, they were focused on data inside law firms, and now some of them have pivoted to analysis, for example, right? Some of them pivot the markets they're serving. We're trying to serve private practice attorneys. Oh no, it's too hard to sell to them, so we're just going to sell in-house to in-house attorneys instead, right? So things are always changing. Not all these companies will survive. Some of them will be acquired. And just because I list an AI tool here and talk about it, it's not a warranty or representation of the quality of the tool. Sorry, I'm a lawyer, I had to say it. Do your own research, right? Do your own research. If you are about to zone out, because I'm about to go over a lot of tools, and you just want one legal AI tool in your practice, and that's it, it's going to be one of these. These are the legal AI assistants. These are the generalist AI tools. Some of the tools listed here on this slide will also be in future categories. So the next several slides, I'm not going to go through every single tool, don't worry, but I will categorize all of these tools into particular categories. But the legal AI assistants, they do a lot more than just one category, and they're in some of these categories. Now, just like with law, just like with any industry, sometimes the tools that focus just on one thing are going to be the best tool for that thing. I love Calendly. I think it's the best scheduling tool. It's on a slide deck later in my presentation. But if you're already subscribed to Microsoft suite of services, they have Microsoft Bookings. It's pretty good. I mean, it's there. You're probably already paying for it, so you might as well use it. But if you want the best scheduling experience, you're going to want to probably use a tool like Calendly, where it's all they do. So the legal AI assistants aren't necessarily the best at any one of the things that they do, so keep that in mind. So let me just show all these tools here, because I don't have time to go through all of them. My personal favorite, and the tool that I use, and I've demoed or evaluated every single one of these tools that I'm showing on the screen today. I haven't necessarily done a full deep dive like the IP legal AI. That's just not related to my practice. I read what was on their website. I watched some videos to make sure it's actually a legit company, right? But I've played with most of these tools on the screen right now. Paxton is unbelievable, because released right now, they are the only legal AI tool that has a proprietary large language model. I've been using Paxton for over a year, and even in the beginning, when their legal large language model was only trained on all state and federal laws, it was significantly better in terms of its accuracy. Now it's been trained on administrative rules. It's been trained on millions of legal documents, treatises, and it's just gotten even better. And it does everything. It helps me analyze cases. It helps me do legal research. It helps me summarize, strategize, synthesize. It's like I use this tool like I would use any staff person on my team. And so for $99 a month, I could scale my practice without actually having to hire more. I don't think AI is going to make people's jobs go away. I think if you learn how to use AI, you could scale your business without more hiring. LawDroid is really interesting, and it does something unique in that you could, and it did this before Gen AI hit the scene, it let you customize a chatbot for your website. I mean, a lot of other companies, they might help you set up a chatbot on your website. Well, now LawDroid helps you do it leveraging the power of Gen AI, right? And so as far as I could tell, all the rest of these tools, they are GPT wrappers. Paxton also leverages the other models that are out there, but the rest of these, they're just leveraging OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, all these other tools, right? But that's something that LawDroid does that's really unique, so that's why I wanted to mention it. And the last one I'll talk about on this slide, and you'll see here just certain ones are litigation focused. Eve has even now focused even more so just in plaintiff's personal injury and plaintiff side work than any of these other ones. At the time that I put this together, they were more broadly litigation focused, but I've been reading some things now on Eve that they're even just pushing right into personal injury and plaintiff side work. But the last one I'll talk about in detail on this slide is GCAI. GCAI, when I first used it, it blew my mind, and here's why. When I prompted it to analyze a document, it asked me a question. It asked me a clarifying question, right? So that's the power of these GPT wrappers when executed well. It helps that GCAI, one of the co-founders, the co-founder and CEO, she's a former Amazon in-house attorney, and so she actually knows what you need as an in-house attorney. What I like about Paxton, too, is that it was actually designed by engineers. They didn't bring in a lawyer until they were almost a year into their startup journey. A lot of these are started by lawyers, and I don't know, I don't love using, some of them can be good, and I'm open-minded, I'm not closed-minded, but I find that the functional fixedness of legal tech companies founded by lawyers is sometimes problematic. I did not see that was the case with GCAI, and that it's asking you clarifying questions before giving an answer. If they could do it, I think some of these other AI tools may start to do it too, but I was very impressed with what GCAI was doing in that space. And then Harvey, maybe you've heard of Harvey, it's making the rounds, right? They're keeping it close to their chest, and they're mostly focused in the big law space. What we think it's doing is, and Leia is kind of a European competitor that's starting to come into the US market, of Harvey specifically. We think it's just training on all firm data to be a super powered AI assistant tool inside of that law firm and sort of acting as the legal AI assistant, but I haven't actually been able to get my hands on it. It's all speculation. For legal research, Paxton does legal research. Vincent and VLEX, they acquired FastCase. So if you are a member of your state bar association, you probably have access to FastCase. Well, now that's VLEX, and their AI tool is called Vincent. They actually just released some interesting features. I would highly recommend you check out some of the videos that they have. When I was trying to demo their product a few months ago, they didn't have a solo small firm product specifically available, but they are planning to move into that market. For the AI, VLEX, you could use VLEX for traditional legal research. CoCounsel, it was recently announced, I think it was like yesterday, that Thomson Reuters, who acquired CoCounsel, they're sunsetting it. And now in order to get access to those features, you have to be a Westlaw subscriber. Sorry. LawDroid has legal research capabilities. I know. Lexis plus AI. Responsive, this one's interesting. Responsive is trying to be the legal research tool for in-house attorneys. That's their niche. We mentioned Eve AI in the last slide and Call as well. Case snappy is an interesting one. I've seen this leveraged more for law students than for actual lawyers. Here are your analysis tools. And again, I'm happy to share these slides with you. I'm sure Nifty will as well. I don't have time to go through every single one of these tools. If your data and in-firm house tools, so these are tools that can train on your firm data and help you process it and understand it and leverage it more efficiently. Litigation tools, if you're a litigator, and I did throw eDiscovery AI on here. So eDiscovery's been around for a long time. They originally leveraged machine learning to do their tasks, but due to the power of comprehension for large language models, and they're starting to incorporate that too. And eDiscovery AI is in the forefront of this. They're like really pushing that more so than some of these other eDiscovery platforms that have been around for a long time. Oh, actually worth mentioning is Parrot and Scribe. They are deposition-focused AI tools. So in particular, like if you're already not billing your time and you're in personal injury, like you got to be leveraging these tools, right? They're going to make you way more efficient in your work. Some of these deposition tools, it's like having a superpowered assistant while you're taking the deposition, and you could take a 5-minute break and consult the AI to see if your strategy and plan is actually being met, and maybe you forgot to ask a follow-up question, right? And this is doing it simultaneously as you're taking the deposition. So it's not reviewing and analyzing a transcript in post and then like, oh, we didn't ask that question that we wanted to ask. These tools will help you ask all the questions you need to ask. I do have 8 years of litigation experience, so I've actually used to, before I pivoted to transactional, I would love to be using these tools if I was still in litigation. Even Up, right? Even Up, this is going to radically change the personal injury space. What does Even Up do if you haven't heard of it? They are essentially doing benchmarking and using AI to analyze medical records and damages and past cases and what they're worth and what they settled for to the extent there's public information about that, what they went to trial for, and what were the damages awarded for similar style cases. And they're leveraging it across all jurisdictions. If you actually have that data, you're going to settle cases faster for more accurate results of what they might have settled for or gone to trial for anyway. Is that worth a third if you could get there faster? Clients may demand a better rate because you're getting there more efficiently. So we have to rethink, even in personal injury, even in contingency, how we're billing our clients and whether a third is even going to be ethical anymore when Even Up and other tools like Even Up start to flood the market. If you're looking to drafting, Hyperdraft hit the scene also before Gen AI hit the scene. They have some interesting features like a clause carousel. And even though some of these tools are designed for transactional, some of them are designed for litigation, you could definitely hack them. So if you like a particular style argument based on well-tread case law for a motion or a brief, you could probably still leverage a Hyperdraft for the motion drafting and brief drafting. And then if you're an IP, here are some tools for you to check out. The augmentation tools, these are tools where it's not necessarily AI first, but they're now leveraging AI to help augment your practice. Screens AI basically uses AI to power contract playbooks so that you could run your contract playbook against a new contract immediately and get results. Gavel used to be Documate. They automate forms, they automate motions, pleadings, discovery, contracts, really any legal document whatsoever. And it used to be you had to go in and you had to build your own automation. And it took a lot of time, it took a lot of investment, and it was worth it, especially if you're not billing your time, because now it's productized and you can get things done right away. Well, they've incorporated Gen AI, so you could upload any document and the Gen AI will review it and suggest all the automations. So it took you from 0% to 90%. You still got to go through it and you still have to fine tune the automations, but it's doing 90% of the work now by leveraging Gen AI. Pattern Builder, if you're a NetSuite customer, it's an AI automation tool inside there, and Joseph Q is in a similar category. They did not have a solo small firm focused product when I was asking them to review the product at the time. And 650 is actually, their headquarters is like down the street from here, but they are a document database and automation tool. But the question then becomes, well, if you're a lawyer leveraging that tool, because they also sell directly to in-house teams and to companies, it's like an HR corporate compliance type automation platform. What happens if the in-house lawyer or the outside counsel like me who's leveraging this tool, we customize it for our client? Because certainly an HR team could just use it. It's legal tech, it's not legal advice. But lawyers can leverage this tool. What happens if we customize the document? But then there's an update in law. Well, that's one of the values of staying subscribed to a company like 650 is because they're doing all the research and they're employing lawyers to update their automations to stay compliant with changes in law, but I customize the document. Well, now what you could do, using the power of Gen AI, is you could re-upload that customized document, and using Gen AI, it will find where it needs to make the changes, even in your customized document, to then turn it around to your client. And what do these tools help us do? They help us get back to our clients faster. When you're billing your time, you're not incentivized to do that. So some prompt engineering tips: treat Gen AI like it's a superpowered personal assistant. One of the things I like to say in recent days is imagine Gen AI, legal AI in particular, is like the smartest person on the planet. And if it's a legal AI tool, then it's the smartest associate on the planet. But they're an entry-level worker, and it's their first day on the job, and it's like that every time you interface with them for a new situation, right? You still have to work with them, work with these AI tools like you're interfacing with anybody on your team. So here's just some examples of some simple prompts, but higher quality prompts. You could get really complicated with your prompts. I don't think you have to, because you could always do follow-up prompting just like you would with somebody else, right? Review this document and summarize it for me, distill through the 3 most persuasive arguments and explain why, put all the deadlines and dates in a table with explanations and obligations next to the date. I love doing this for franchise disclosure documents and for other sorts of master service agreements and things like that. Analyze these 3 cases. In this instance, you're giving it, even if you've done traditional legal research, you could give it these 3 cases. Analyze these 3 cases, synthesize them into 3 paragraphs, list in bullet points the differences between the facts of each case. And look, even if you are still billing your time, and I don't think you should, this will help get you there faster and have better comprehension over the legal work that you're doing. So if you give this to an associate or a paralegal or a staff person to do these kind of things, it's going to take them hours, it's going to take them days. You will have answers in minutes or seconds. So some final AI tips: written, spoken, natural language is the interface. We are masters of language. It's easier than ever to interface with these tools than before. You don't need to figure out a new way to speak to this technology. You just use language. You could think of it as a client or subscriber benefit, tease for our upcoming conversation. If you want the AI to learn from you, you have to keep your data in a smart place, keep it clean, name it well, aggregate it if necessary. Oh, there are AI tools that help you do this, don't worry. I think the future is having an AI chatbot, be it verbal or written, that only clients get access to, and this could be a subscriber benefit for when you're not available. And then you can go and read the transcript or have it summarized for you so that you could do substantive work asynchronously from communicating with your clients and then only talk with them about the most important things. Going back to Ben's conversation from earlier, right? But now we could leverage AI to do this. You could have an internal version, like this Harvey product, or even like a LawDroid type internal product to increase productivity. I discussed sort of an example of personas previously. If you're using these general AI tools, they're trained on the whole internet, giving it a persona narrows it and takes it from a generalist to a specialist. And look, use it for non-legal tasks. Just start there, start with perplexity. So, you're using Gen AI. Work is getting done extremely fast. How do you bill? Let's talk about it. Let's say you're billing $500 an hour. 10 hours of billable time makes you $5,000. Gen AI can make 10 hours of billable time take 10 minutes. And realistically, it could probably take less than 10 minutes, but lawyers don't love math, so let's keep it simple. Under the billable hour in a Gen AI world, $5,000 worth of work is only billable for 100. What do? Do you raise your rates? Okay, let's talk about that. To make 0.2 of an hour worth $5,000 means you have to charge $25,000 an hour. Okay? So $5,000 or 50 times your rate, 5,000% of your rate, right? What it is right now. Would your clients be happy to pay that rate? Right? Are you ethically allowed to charge $25,000 an hour? I don't think so. So what does that mean for serving the latent legal market and access to justice? Is that just going to exacerbate the problem if we're charging $25,000 an hour? And by the way, the latent legal market, think of it like what happened with Uber. It turns out that the market of people who would use a rideshare, cabbies and taxis, were only serving 6% of that market. And Uber blew it up. They discovered and started to serve the 94% of the market out there. One of the reasons why I don't do litigation anymore and I pivoted to transactional is because my hypothesis is that 99% of transactions happen without a lawyer. And there's a massive latent legal market opportunity. Jack Newton of Clio and some other legal luminaries have pegged it at over $1 trillion market opportunity. One of the reasons I love talking about Gen AI and subscription legal services is because I'm not worried about competition. There's so much market opportunity in this blue ocean. So, what are your options? I'm here to tell you, the era of the billable hour is over. Enter the subscription model. Finally, yes. Okay, we made it here. We made it. This is what I wanted to talk about. Everything was just a prelude to this. So why the subscription model? Not using AI in your practice means, in my opinion, this isn't ethics advice, but this is my opinion, you are exploiting a fee arrangement based primarily on hourly charges by using wasteful procedures. Adoption of most legal tech already eliminates the billable hour. Client expectations have changed. Remote meetings are expected. Right? You don't even need to have an in-person office anymore. Cost transparency is demanded by clients. And by the way, putting I bill $500 an hour on your website isn't cost transparency. All my prices are on my website. Easy scheduling is expected. Again, this sort of goes back to Ben's conversation, right? Easy scheduling is expected. Subscription model benefits. Predictable monthly recurring revenue and annual recurring revenue. Clients will know what things cost. They're not afraid to call or contact you. And you might think, oh, if they're subscribing to me and they get to have unlimited scheduled calls, they're just going to schedule calls with me and I'll talk to my clients all the time. Your clients don't like you that much, okay? They don't want to talk to their lawyer too much. Like, they have better things to do in their life than talk to their lawyer. But you know what they're doing when they call you? They're bringing you work. That's what they're doing. They're bringing you more work. Sure, you could spend money marketing, and if you really want to grow, you should. But a simple, low-priced ticket subscription that gives them access to contact you, even before doing any substantive legal work, that's making money marketing. It fosters ongoing relationships with your clients. In particular, in the fractional GC space that I'm in, my clients are not afraid to call me. I get to know their business. I get to know their personal lives, which helps me better serve them legally. So this is not only ethical, it's advisable that you learn as much as you can about your clients when serving them. And if you're billing by the hour, they're not going to talk to you. You are now incentivized to be efficient and effective, because the less time you spend on something, the more money you make. I'm going to say that one more time. The less time you spend on something, the more money you make. Scale is possible without more hiring, right? We already talked about that with Gen AI. So if your staff are using Gen AI, they could 10x their productivity without you having to hire more people. And then if you stop billing time and you leverage the subscription model, you could increase the amount of clients that you could take on, and you could scale even more just with that too. If you've tried to hire, you know there's a labor shortage, in particular for skilled attorneys. You get lifetime value from clients, and they get lifetime value of legal services from you. So you might think, I just get one bite at the apple with this client, I'm going to bill them for all they're worth, because I get one bite at the apple. They're going to hire me once and they're never going to hire me again. Well, if you reframe that, you could eat the whole apple. It's just going to take a longer period of time. You could eat bushels of apples from a client, but it's just going to be over a longer extended period of time. There's market opportunity for institutional clients who want to cut costs. There's a blue ocean of market opportunities for people and small businesses who have been priced out of legal services. That's the latent legal market. You could compete with LegalZoom and similarly positioned legal tech companies, but you're able to provide legal services. It reduces burnout, it improves mental health. Attorneys are rewarded for efficiency. I have a podcast called Law Subscribed. I talk to a lot of lawyers leveraging the subscription model there. That podcast is to highlight the work of other lawyers, not of me. Most of the attorneys I speak to on that podcast are women attorneys who were punished for being more efficient and better at their job than the male lawyers at larger law firms, because they were billing fewer hours, even though they were getting the work done better and faster. And so they left to start their own innovative law practice where they're not billing time. So if you want to retain lawyers, you got to consider this model. We can compete with other industries offering a 4-day work week, and this is going to start to happen, right? It alleviates the need for re-regulation. I've never actually given this presentation in Utah, in a jurisdiction where the regulations are changing. It increases access to justice, and you can make more money, and that's okay to increase access to justice and for lawyers to make more money. But how do you adapt it? There's the pure subscription model. There's subscription plus flat fees for the litigators in the room. That's the one you're going to want to look at. Subscription add-ons, it's going to vary based on practice area, right? Transactional, pure subscriptions are going to be easier. In litigation, subscription and flat fees. And then we're going to cover pricing. So the pure subscription model, for example, trademarks, this is where it kind of started. This is where the subscription model took off. Unlimited cease and desist letters, unlimited scheduled attorney-client communications, so many trademark searches, one trademark filing maybe per year, right? You still need to scope your services. Fractional GC, this is a lot of what I do. You could have a document marketplace where you're, like, let's say you want to help offer a DIY divorce service. Here's your option, right? And then if they decide to hire you and they were subscribed to the DIY divorce service, then they get a discount on your fees, even if it's a discount on an hourly rate, which I don't suggest, but that's something that you could do, right? Legal adjacent services. You're a criminal defense attorney, you get them on probation, here's your probation compliance program. Even if you're billing time as a divorce attorney, you get the divorce decree or the marital settlement agreement, here's your, call it a maintenance or compliance program. You want to come up with something catchier. Nifty will help you come up with something catchier than compliance program or maintenance program. But because you got to market this, right? You still have to market this idea to your clients, but you offer an ongoing compliance maintenance program for your clients post-divorce decree, post-marital settlement agreement. The subscription plus flat fee model, this works for things that are one and done, right? Corporate formation, real estate transaction, general transactional, estate planning, unbundled, and flat fee services add-on, and for litigation, right? So I used to be an insurance defense attorney. I know, don't come after me. I left that behind. But I designed a model there where it was, you pay a flat fee up front because there's a lot of work to do in the beginning. Draft or respond to the complaint, propound and respond to discovery. But then the rest of litigation is relatively predictable, especially if you've been doing it for a long time. And you could control for variables, right? If you hire contractors to do work on your home and they discover a bunch of mold, guess what? You have to redo the scope of services, right? You discover something in litigation that you didn't know before. As long as you let your clients know, hey, if we find anything else, the monthly subscription goes up by X%, right? Per additional deposition or something like that. I have a formula. There are ways to design a subscription and flat fee model for all kinds of litigation, including criminal defense work, right? Though I know there's a lot of that done just on fixed fee basis these days. So how do you price it? You keep it simple, right? No more than 3 offerings at a time. Sometimes you just want 1 offering. Give options of different tiers, different levels, and depending on the nature of your practice and your ideal types of clients, your client avatars, you're gonna wanna structure this in a different way. For me, I like to start with a low accessible price for the market I'm trying to serve, and then I could bump them up the scale as they get and understand and appreciate the value of the legal services I provide, and I have higher level subscriptions for that, right? You could offer subscription add-ons. I even unbundle negotiations. Some of my clients want to negotiate themselves, fine, so I unbundle that. If they want me to negotiate for them, that subscription add-on comes on, and then it comes off when negotiations are over. And for my highest level clients, it's just bundled back into a pure subscription, right? And that's the value, right? You could unbundle all your legal services. Most jurisdictions these days allow for you to unbundle, and I'll show you the model rules on that soon. But you could rebundle them back together and offer that as a higher level subscription. And you're really providing more value because if they paid for it all unbundled, it would cost them more. And that's what helps sell the value of higher level subscriptions. And what's nice about unbundling and having a la carte services is if you go outside the scope of your subscriber benefits, you just default to your a la carte pricing. For example, I charge $20 a month and $50 a page. I treat it like Costco. You must first become a subscriber, then you get access to the really good fixed fee pricing. And if I don't already have a document automated, it's just $50 a page. If my clients go over so many projects, like if I have a business level client that's paying me hundreds or thousands of dollars a month, and they have so many projects a month associated with that, and they go a project over, it defaults to $50 a page for the next project. Or, look, it's only $50 a page. I'm magnanimous. We'll give you that project on the house because I want them to stay subscribed and be happy, right? So I'm happy to do it. Or I could charge them what the engagement agreement supplies for, right? So you could see my website for examples, right? So I sort of already talked about this, and we've got 11 minutes left, so I have to fly through this a little bit. There's my website of all my pricing, right? subscriptionattorney.com/#all-access. You can see all the pricing, all the fixed fees that I offer for subscribers and subscription add-ons. And you just look at the main website if you want to look at the subscription levels. So here are some strategies. Easy unsubscribe and resubscribe. I realize in litigation this is a little bit more difficult. But there are different ways that you could approach this from an engagement agreement type standpoint. Same account information. If you are in a position where you're able to do easy unsubscribe and resubscribe, I find that my clients, even when they unsubscribe, they still think of me as their attorney. You could offer a reduction in a subscription level, if applicable, to stop churn. I take the anti-law firm approach, right? Which is one of the reasons why I love Nifty's phrase of make law sexy, right? Like I try to take, I'm not gonna do it the way other law firms are doing it. But you don't have to, right? There's a desire, I think, for more affordably priced, traditional-looking law firms. There's still a market there. You're just going to be competing in a red ocean. You should niche down, right? There's an opportunity to do a trade name for your law firm. Thank you, Law HQ. Trade names are allowed in every jurisdiction. So think about having a trade name. Not only that, but think about building a brand that is a saleable asset in the future when you want to exit. Massive opportunity for non-English speaking opportunities. I've had to turn away some Spanish-speaking clients. I'm in the Chicagoland area, huge Hispanic community and Polish-speaking community there. I'm not able to serve those markets. I'm a true solo. Though AI is helping me for situations where certain translations are needed, right? So similar to the AI section, I'm not going to actually spend too much time on every single one of these tools, but I will provide them for you and categorize them for you. Legal tech is great. Most of what I'm going to have in here are non-legal tech. Even if you're billing by the hour, if you just want to be more efficient in your practice, these are the types of tools that you're going to need. Automation, right? So AI is a form of automation, but we already covered AI, so I'm not covering it, right? There's no reason to ever draft something from scratch ever again, and you don't need to do find all and replace all. Like that's like really bad automation, right? And it takes a lot of time, right? There are tools that help you do these, right? Intake, we talked about intake earlier, really important. There's a lot of great tools on the market to automate that, right? There's bring your own documents versus document databases. I subscribe to both. There's turnkey automations versus one that you have to build. AI is making these easier. And this is one of the examples of how you could have a marketplace of documents, right? Or DIY materials. So here's some automation tech, right? I do want to disclose that the first two, Gavel and 650, they are sponsors of my podcast, but I use them and I wouldn't partner with them if the tools weren't phenomenal. Legal Karma, specific to estate planning. I use the Illinois Institute of Continuing Legal Education's platform called Formula. And then, of course, Gen AI, that's a different kind of automation, but it's out there. eDiscovery is now even pivoted into Gen AI as well. Client portal tech. This is sort of, your matter management, private messaging, document sharing, right? Categorizing CRM. Some of these are all in the client portal. Some of them are unbundled. It helps you with marketing campaigns, newsletters, right? Not everything is going to be in one client portal or practice management platform, but a lot of these things are going to be in there. You want it to ideally power your subscription payments. That's why I don't use legal tech, because none of them are built for that, with the exception of one company, Fidoo, but because I have such a customized subscription-based practice, that tool is not perfect for me, but it's great for a lot of other firms. So here's the legal tech, right? Fidoo is the only one that's really built for subscription law firms first. Rally, you may have never heard of Rally, but maybe you've heard of Spellbook. Spellbook is a document automation tool as well, using the power of AI, and Rally is their subscription law firm offering. So they help law firms with subscription pricing as well. There's some non-legal tech versions and some WordPress plugins. So if you have a WordPress website, I for one dislike WordPress, but if you have a WordPress website, you could use these tools to power a subscription practice. And you could kind of hack it in the other ones. Actually, I should also have FileVine on there. FileVine, you could also finagle a subscription pricing. It's more payment plan. So like Clio, MyPace, Practice, Panther, Smokeball, and FileVine, it's more payment plan than subscription. It's not ideal, but you could hack those if you're using those for that. And Clio integrates with Fidoo. For online payments, here's what you want to do. You want to automate charges. You want quick and easy payments. I have 100% collectible rates because all my clients pay me before I do any work, and it's all automated. You do have to consult your particular jurisdiction's ethics. Any fixed fee in a subscription is a recurring fixed fee. In Illinois, it could go right into our operating account. We just can't make the fees non-refundable. We have to refund them if certain circumstances apply, right? So here's all the different reasons why you want online payments. Some of them have churn reduction management. Churn is just a subscription economy term for when somebody unsubscribes. So here's all the tech for that. I prefer using Stripe. That's my main tool right now. If you need trust accounting, so certain jurisdictions require that you put the funds in trust and then transfer them at the end of the month or whatever the period is. Confido Legal used to be Gravity Legal, LawPay, and QuickBooks. These are all tools that you could leverage if you need to use a trust account in relation to your subscription payments. Scheduling, I already sort of talked about scheduling with Calendly, right? Like you control your calendar instead of it controlling you. Automate scheduling of all kinds, right? Let's say you have a paralegal or a front desk person or whatever virtual assistant equivalent of that. One of their main things should just be to get them on your calendar, time block them on your calendar. You got to use these tools. I don't let anybody schedule anything with me within 24 hours. And if you're in litigation or a high stress, somebody could file an emergency motion type situation and your client wants to call you because their soon-to-be ex-spouse did something crazy, you charge them a subscription premium for that. So here's some scheduling tech, right? Calendly, HubSpot, newsletter tech. So this could be your freemium tier marketing for your newsletter, but it could also be a client benefit too, client-only newsletter, right? I'm a big fan of Substack. I give another CLE on podcasting for lawyers, and Substack is the tool I recommend for that. You could also use it to publish video podcasts. It's like a CRM light tool. These newsletter tools are not full-on CRMs, but it's got a lot of similar features. And some CRM tools have newsletters built in that are more robust CRMs. Speaking of CRMs, this is where you store all your stuff. I mean, Nifty and other marketing companies and people who are experts in that, they'll tell you need to use CRM tech. So you could just use Excel and Sheets. I use SweetDash. I don't love it, but does a good job for a good price and it's HIPAA compliant. HubSpot's another one, Clio Grow, Lawmatics, so there's some good legal tech in this space too. Voice over Internet Protocol, or VoIP, right? These make it easy for you to have an office phone that's not your cell phone to communicate with your clients. So these are the tools. There's a lot of advanced features too. Certain ones of these let you record and listen in for intake and everything that's been talked about at today's conference and yesterday's conference. Google Voice, Open Phone, Zoom, GoToConnect, right? RingCentral. I've seen a lot of law firms use RingCentral. You want secure video, right? You can meet with clients anywhere. These calls can be encrypted. Clients expect it. And I think it's really important that we pay for these tools and we do turn on the encryption to preserve attorney-client communications, right? So we know what these are: Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, right? Secure document sharing. Do not email financial information because it's not encrypted, okay? You gotta use secure document sharing, right? It's just not secure, don't do it, right? There's plugins, there's solutions to make it secure, but it also kind of looks like phishing. So I don't recommend using those encryption tools in email. Cloud document sharing is much better with two-factor authentication. And if you share via email, it's potential ethics violation, since this is an ethics talk, right? Don't just share Google Docs with a free Google account. Google is reading everything. You have to have a paid Google Workspace account, right? SharePoint, OneDrive, if you're a Microsoft user, right? We know these other ones: Dropbox, Box, certain client portal features offer it. I know the law practice management software, they do it too. You need PDF editors, you gotta pay for it, and the e-signature tools are really important these days too. We have about a minute left, so I'm gonna fly through some of these slides. Feel free to ask me for the slides, and I'm happy to provide them. Knowledge base, this is particularly important. This was in my slide deck before GenAI hit the scene, but it's even more important now because you could train GenAI on your knowledge base. But it could also be a subscriber benefit that they get access to your knowledge base when you're not available, right? And then for you, when you're not billing your time, you can use your knowledge base, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. So Notion leverages GenAI, so I recommend looking into Notion. There are some legal AI tools like Fidu that let you have a knowledge base. Not all tools talk to each other, so what we could do is we could help them integrate. If they don't integrate natively, like Zoom integrates with Calendly, but if they don't integrate together, then you could use tools like Zapier or Make, or If This Then That, to make disparate pieces of technology talk to each other. Some final tech tips: look for tools with unlimited usage as part of the subscription. Subscriptions are about scale, so the more clients you have, the easier it is to understand what you're spending and what you can spend on tech, on marketing, on everything else, on employees, right? It's easier to spend on technology when you know what your monthly recurring and annual recurring revenue is going to be. And this is applicable too to other subscriptions that's not tech, right? Insurance, salaries, marketing, et cetera. And you could look at these marketplaces if you're not sure if the tech that I recommend that you do more research on today isn't enough. Law Next is by Bob Ambrogi. I highly recommend that, and these are some other places you could go. The model rules, they permit it. They permit limited scope representation, right? This is allowed. Here's the applicable rules, right? It just has to be reasonable under the circumstances. That's all. And finally, Rule 1.5 already contemplates regularly represented clients. So subscriptions are permissible under the rules implicitly, right? You just have to let them know up front. You just have to be transparent, right? And refund any unearned portion. So again, you don't want to be doing this, right? Engaging in wasteful procedures. So final thoughts on ethics. Don't worry, we're almost done. Speak with ethics counsel, but prepare for them to not have answers in the Gen AI and subscription space, but work with them and they will be able to give you answers. Ask your AI vendor if they're using RAG, they're SOC 2 compliant, any underlying models are being trained. Stop billing time and switch to a more profitable model. Be transparent with your fees. I have my agreement on my website, so clients know before they engage with me what they're agreeing to. Be creative and transparent with how you approach earned fees, and secure messaging is really important, right? My subscribers get access to the subscriber benefits. That's what they get. So that's it. That's the presentation. I'm Matthew Kurbis. I'm the subscription attorney. Here's the best way to get in touch with me. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That's my firm website. You could see what I do. I want other lawyers to do it too. I have a legal podcast, Law Subscribed. If you want to launch a subscription business for your law firm, or you want to talk to me about it because you're seriously considering it, or you're taking steps to that, I'm happy to interview you on the show. In about 9 weeks, I'll cross the 100th episode. So check that out. You want to talk about marketing? I talk about this more in my Podcasting for Lawyers, but check out the Law for Kids podcast. That's something I'm doing to build brand affinity. And I do have a course. If you're interested in that, you could sign up on the wait list. It is a long wait list. The best email to reach me with any questions, kurbis@lawsubscribe.com. Thank you very much.